You are listening to the Mom to Mom podcast, hosted by Stephanie Sinclair, founder and owner of How to Mom. This podcast is meant to empower women and bring the community together through storytelling and education. During these episodes, you will hear stories of triumph, heartache, and hope. You will hear time-tested tips and tricks shared by mamas and women. You will hear a variety of birth stories that will resonate with all birthing families, advice from professionals who have dedicated their teachings to pregnancy, birth, and moms. Here, you will find encouragement, support, and community, because we are your community, and we are so happy to have you. Now, on to today's episode. Welcome to the Mom to Mom podcast. We are so excited to have you listening today. We are interviewing one of an amazing Twin Cities professional who is a mental health therapist. And I am so excited to introduce all of you to Ryan Flash. He is a Twin Cities therapist who specializes in seeing dads. Ryan is married to his wife, Stacy, and a father to 3 exceptional daughters, ages 11, 7, and 3. He's been at this now for 7 years, and he recognized the huge need and gap in caring for new and seasoned dads. Ryan has developed a lesson plan to help fathers adjust to the challenges they face and to become the dad that everyone loves. I absolutely love your intro, Ryan, and there is such a need for support for dads, not only here in the Twin Cities, but across our country. So thank you so much for the work that you do. And I'm so excited for our listeners who happen to be a lot of moms hear from you today. But maybe this will be a really great podcast episode, hint, hint, moms, to send to your significant others.
Absolutely.
Just to get familiar with the fact that there is support out there for dads. And so welcome to the Mom to Mom podcast, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's interesting. Oftentimes I'll get a call and my husband needs to talk.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Just asking, I just start to ask the mom questions, the wife questions about what's going on. And it's so often that wives are either facilitating it or helping. And, I when I meet with men and dads, I try to get them to be the ones to reach out and start getting the help that they need. Yeah. Sometimes they need that little push at the beginning, and I know that's frustrating for a lot of moms out there.
Well, and I think too, we could look at it probably a couple different ways. I think when it's us as individuals, whether male or female, taking that first step is always so hard. And then on top of it, the fact that therapy for men or dads, it's not a topic that we hear about often. It's not something that I think, dads necessarily talk about over a beer. And so sometimes if we can just facilitate and take that first step for them, I think their eyes would be wide open. And so Ryan works and owns Discovery Mental Health. So Ryan, can you tell us a little bit more about your clinic, how you help dads, and kind of just your background? We would love to learn more about who you are.
Absolutely. So back in 2017, I jumped into private practice, and I was with Marriage Geek, Marine Campion, wonderful lady, great couples therapist, great therapist in general. And she let me practice under her for quite some time. I was with her for a couple of years, and she just looked at me and said, Ryan, I know you're just entering the field entering private practice.
Right.
And, there's nobody for dads.
Nobody.
I'm like, what?
I know.
I don't know about that. So I kind of did research and maybe for every 10 or 15 groups or resources for moms out there, there's one for dads.
100%.
It's just a huge discrepancy there of how many programs are available. And so I said, well, wow, how do I even engage fathers? So I set off on this thing, and yeah, it's Discover Mental Health, and then the program that I call it under is Launchpad Dads. Like, how do we
Yes.
get you? How do we get dads to launch? And
Right.
really be a wonderful father and a wonderful leader and influence in their
Mhm.
families,
Yeah.
especially with kids. And um, yeah, dads just uh, I just found that like dads just struggle with so many different things, and it's really like, how do we engage them? Because like
Yeah.
you said, like it's not the typical format. However, I will say is that like in my opinion, more and more men are coming to therapy, and it's great. More and more
Absolutely.
dads are like, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give it
Yeah.
a shot. Somebody told me that they have a therapist. I'm going to try this out. So,
Well, and I
um,
think when you and I first met, I think what's so amazing, and we hear a lot of like negativity in life of like, oh, our world's so different these days. And I have such a different perspective. I get to work with a lot of different generations, and I'm noticing so much improvement, not only just with families in general, but with dads. Like,
mm,
how interactive, how involved, how therapy is just a part of their marriage from the start. And I'm just like, holy buckets, are we going to see the positive effects of this 10, 20 years down the road? And I think men, especially in their 20s, some in their 30s, are realizing that they want to show up differently than their dads showed up. And not to like put
yeah,
any negativity, we all do the best that we can, but I think these newer dads are saying, I really want to be an active
yeah,
participant in my family and I want to be emotionally available. And that's
yeah,
not what I received as a child. So, like, it's a learned, character trait. And it's like, you deserve support, dads. You deserve to be able to have somebody to talk with, to not only work on like past trauma and how to break through that, but like how can I, and what I love about your intro is to become the dad that everyone loves. Like how powerful is that?
dads very much desire that, right? They
Yeah.
just they just really want to be like loved by their family, and then they feel constantly like failures when they're letting people down, and they're like, I don't know how to help, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And so that's where I kind of come in, and
Yes.
kind of developed a curriculum that I take men through in therapy, and it's been great. I have done group formats in the past, and I would
Okay.
love to get back to one of those. I think one, I need the interest, which
Yep.
there is, but I need to find those interested. And then secondly, like my daughter just turned 3, and it was kind of
Yes.
hectic with three kids. So I took a little break from the group format. I
Understandable.
was offering it. I was just offering it as a resource, and I do desire to get back to that. But um, uh, the group format was like kind of like class stuff and class, and I would let's see here. We'd like learn something for the session, for the class, and then there'd be a lot of open time to talk about some of the
Yeah.
things that are just going on, in their own families.
And building that community, right, to
Mm,
really
mhm.
kind of meet other dads who might be in the same or similar situation, or at least another dad who's open to therapy and you feel like you can like relate to them versus maybe some of your friends who maybe take on this society pressure of like, if you are going to therapy, then something's wrong. And it's like, actually, no, it's quite the opposite. So building that community. But I remember that when I became a mom, we have a lot of these new mom groups, right? That you mentioned, and we just don't have that for dads as much. But I will never forget how much it meant to me to be in that group setting and to hear that I was not alone. Like something I was experiencing at home as a new mom, I felt really alone and I thought, gosh, is something wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? And then I would go to this group and not only get, support from a professional, but then I had this community of other moms around me who would not only affirm, but they'd say, like, oh my gosh, me too. Like, I'm feeling that same way. And it just lifted that like pressure and that guilt. And so let's be proactive here, listeners. If you are listening and you're a dad, or if you are the mom of the family, but you feel like your husband or spouse or significant other could really, really benefit from a group setting, send us a message, send us a DM. We will get you in touch with Ryan to learn more about what that could look like. I really think it would benefit not only the dads out there, but it would benefit the entire family unit. And so I think that's amazing. And you're right. When our kids are really young, it's a little bit more difficult. But maybe now with your daughter turning 3 and we can get some interest even just within the How to Mom community, I think that would be such a great benefit. All right, you guys, we're just going to take a brief break so that I can tell you all about one of How to Mom's favorite go to brands and products. Earth Mama Organics formulates and creates organic and natural herbal pregnancy, postpartum, breastfeeding, and baby care products. We believe that they are one of the best and the safest personal care products on the market for both you and for baby. You can follow the link in our bio, or you can go to howtomom.com/links, follow the Earth Mama Organics link, and enter How to Mom for your promotional code to receive 15% off. All right, now back to today's show. So let me know what are well, first, I guess let's talk about how do you meet with your clients? Do you offer virtual meetings? Do you do in person? And what are you seeing that dads prefer?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been since COVID happened, I have been meeting exclusively virtual with people. One of the so I live in Dayton, Minnesota, and my office is all the way in Maplewood, which is fine. I'm happy to drive. But what COVID did was it pushed all of everybody I meet with all over the Twin Cities.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure.
talk to people like far south,
Yeah.
far north. Nobody's centralized. So if I were, try to get, if I was to open my office and everything, I would probably only get like a few people that can meet in person. However,
Right.
I'm willing to make the drive if somebody wanted to commit
Yeah.
to an in-person meeting. It would just be in Maplewood, and
Okay.
I could do telehealth from there. But lately, I've been just exclusively telehealth, and I love it. It
Yeah.
gives me time to, I don't have that drive time
Yeah.
with my to get home to my family and everything,
Yeah.
and so I can just kind of end my day and go see them upstairs.
Well, and also for the dads that you see, it's like I do feel like we had some positive things come out of COVID. And one of them is
Yeah,
just making something like therapy more accessible because when we do virtual sessions, like you said, the drive time, it's more accessible if you have to like be home with the kiddos. Like obviously you want to be able to be as present as possible, but we're just able to kind of multitask a little bit easier or just make that session happen. um and have the success of that over going, I've overbooked, there's no way I can make it in person today. It's like, nope, all you got to do is jump on telehealth and you get your
telehealth.
session.
Yeah, it's
That's
a lot
amazing.
more convenient for them, and I'm like right there. I talk to a lot of dads in their cars.
Yeah.
They'll go into their car in their garage and say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm ready to have the meeting,"
I love that.
extra layer of privacy and everything. But like a
Yeah.
lot of dads just have a room that they can meet me with, like an at home office or something like that too.
I
So
love that. Making it happen.
yeah,
And I know when Ryan and I first met, I'm talking to the listeners, we were chatting all about, as professionals, what we kind of see out there, whether it be during pregnancy and supporting your spouse or during birth or postpartum or just, the role of being a dad and that huge life transition. And I obviously, as a birth doula, I was telling Ryan, I often see a lot of trauma that can come for dads post birth, and we hear a lot about traumatic births for moms. But what we don't talk about enough is how is dad doing? And what I find with our clients is this feeling of helplessness.
Mm.
They are not able to, whether in their mind, feel like fix the situation or save their wife from this trauma. And they kind of feel like a deer in headlights. and then they carry that
Yeah.
guilt, right? And it's like they can't let it go, and they can't forgive themselves, and the wife might not even feel that way, but it's something really amazing, but also can be really difficult to see your wife go through labor and not be able to help or fix. And so I was telling Ryan that, that's something that we work with clients on a lot when they hire us for second, third time birth. And there's some real trauma there for both of them. But Ryan, let me know and let the listeners know, do you also see that? But, or if you don't, or in addition to that, what other like common diagnosis do you see, or symptoms, or issues that dads are kind of facing today?
Yeah. So, 1 in 10 men, 1 in 10 dads have a diagnosable condition, and they're 50% more likely to have it if their wife has postpartum depression or anxiety. You know, um, post. It's funny when we talk about diagnosing, like it is, it, you know, I've heard the critique before that, like, well, can men really have postpartum anxiety and depression? Because it's generally those are caused by chemical things
Hmm.
after birth, right?
Hmm.
And like that aside, like that aside, in my professional opinion, it absolutely
Hmm.
um, is uh, much absolutely aligns with
Yeah.
postpartum anxiety and depression, and those are the two of
Yeah,
the most common ones I see
for sure.
with the men. You know, uh, Oftentimes women, new moms, will experience it pretty soon after, right? Because
Yeah.
of all the hormonal things going on in the body once they give birth.
Yeah.
And for dads, we're finding it's like after 2 months, after
Yeah.
3 months, right? And it will kind of hit as the emergency mode is over.
Yeah.
They're back to work, and
Yeah.
just something feels different. Something feels off,
Yeah.
and they don't really know what to do with it. And they're like, "This
Yeah.
is supposed to be awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Why don't I feel like it's awesome?"
Yeah. I mean,
And
it's such a big transition, and sleep deprivation kind
yeah,
of really sinks in at that time. And just the feeling and the sense of overwhelm, right? It's like we focus a lot on women, and rightfully so, right? And I think that actually is a little bit of the maybe the issue that dads have is
mhm,
this misconception of how can I even express that I'm struggling when my wife is the one who birthed the baby, is breastfeeding the baby? Like, I feel like I shouldn't even complain, or I shouldn't say anything. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, your wife definitely went through a big transition, but you did too. And so I think there's probably that misconception, right? Of like, a lot of times, right, you'll hear like, our society, it's like, what are you complaining about? Like, you're not even the one birthing this baby. Like, my gosh, get it together, and it's just like that doesn't
no,
serve
no.
anyone.
And we're not, and by bringing this up and talking about this, we're not trying to take away from the mom's journey of having a baby. We're just trying to say that dads
Mhm.
often have challenges of their own that may not be like right there apparent to you. It may
Yeah.
take some digging too, and it may not be as severe as what
Yeah.
moms go through. Sometimes it's more severe, because I've talked on
Yeah.
that spectrum before too, but it may not be as severe. So we're not trying to take away from moms, but we're just trying to say, let's acknowledge dads. Um, I've heard countless times from the dads that I see, like, everybody checked in with my
Yeah.
wife, the doctor, the grandparents, everybody checked in with my wife. Nobody asked how I was doing. And
Right.
they just like, I get it,
Yeah.
I get it, but also like, h- h- h-
Yeah.
where's my support?
Yeah.
I'm a new dad too, or I'm a new dad now. So
So many things that you just
yeah.
said right there is so powerful. Also, the statistics that you shared, I don't think people know that enough. And there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to not only therapy but also birth doulas. And,
Mm.
I talk with a lot of wives and they'll say, I absolutely want to hire a birth doula, but I don't know if my husband's on board. And what's so fun is I love those conversations. I'm like, let's get your husband on the line. Like, I cannot wait to talk to him. And I feel like that's what we do really well here at How to Mom, on top of a lot of other things, of course. But it's letting that dad know, like, we're there to support the entire family unit.
Yeah.
So when we're supporting them during birth, we're checking in with dad. We're making sure he's staying hydrated, he's staying fueled, because then he can show up and be that present dad that he wants to be while also being taken care of. And if there's trauma, checking in with him, what do you need? And that's why, like, I was so excited to connect with you, because I don't feel like we have enough resources. If a dad were to come to me and say, I'm struggling, like, I love that I now am able to get them in the right hands. And so I love that you said, like, we're not taking away from the mom's journey, but what I think from my personal experience, it was actually kind of a relief to hear that my husband was struggling. I know that sounds weird, but he came home from work one day and I was like, why is this so hard for me? What's wrong with me? Why am I struggling so bad? And he looked at me and he was like, this is freaking hard. He's like, this is so hard. And I was like relieved to hear that he too was feeling it. And so when your, husband, or when a dad gets help, it is going to improve the entire family unit. Like, instead of looking at it as a negative thing of like, why would he need help? He didn't birth the baby. It's like, think how much stronger you're all going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
powerful.
Right. Like you need, I see couples as well. And one of the biggest messages that I have for them is you have kids now, or you have a kid now. The two of you need to lead that family together, right? And so both of you need to be leaders in the family, and kind of just aligning on the key issues, and
Yeah.
just steering it. And so like you guys have to work well together so that your family
Yeah.
follows that path. And um uh I guess I was just saying, like, if one or the other is having mental health issues,
Mhm.
that's going to be very hard to steer that family in that right direction. And so it's really about like focusing on both, like
Yeah.
who might need to talk to someone, right?
Hey guys, it's Stephanie Sinclair, founder and owner of How to Mom. I'm just interrupting today's episode to make sure you are well aware of all that How to Mom offers. We, of course, are a community and a support group for all moms at all stages of life, but we also offer a large variety of services that I wanted to make sure you are well aware of. We offer birth doula services, both in person or online support. We have birth support groups with different birth packages to choose from. We also provide placenta encapsulation services, lactation services from our lactation counselors. We also offer postpartum services, birth planning assistance, belly casting. We have a registered dietitian, nutritionist. We also offer a variety of photography services, from birth, newborn, and family packages. We truly have it all here at How to Mom. So please don't hesitate to reach out today to have a free consult and help us find the best way to support you in your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum journey. Now back to today's episode. Yeah. And
Or both.
being able to then lean on one another as well and have that kind of reliability. And what about, do you talk with a lot of dads about if their wife is struggling and maybe is in therapy or maybe on medication or maybe is just kind of expressing some symptoms? I'm assuming that you're really able to help that dad, obviously, not only with their own set of symptoms, but how they can then better support their wife by understanding maybe where her mental health is at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of we in the field just refer to it as psychoeducation, right?
Okay.
We just talk about what they might be facing, where they might be coming from. I think sometimes dads don't understand the emotional side as much. Not all
Right.
dads, but
Yeah.
sometimes men in general can struggle with understanding where emotions come from,
Yeah.
and like they don't even know, like you were alluding to earlier, their upbringing, right? If they didn't
Yeah.
have a very emotional dad, or it wasn't valued in the family, that kind of set the stage for them to not value emotions as much too. And so then they find themselves in this emotional situation. And what we call it is it's a period of overwhelm, emotional overwhelm, where their emotional level rises, hits, and then they flood over. It's called emotional flooding by um, John and Julie Gottman coined that term.
Okay.
And so when they hit the ceiling, they shut down,
Hmm.
and they can, and then they get lost, and then and that's when you're gonna find like the stupid things being said, or
Yep.
or
Yep.
the misunderstanding, or the I don't want to deal with this, because they're shut down. They're shut down. And
Yeah.
a a lot of wives want their husband to be able to like exist in that. And so
Yeah.
I work with a lot of men on like how do we get you feeling emotions but not flooded by them, right?
Yeah.
And not lost in it. And so a lot of psychoeducation about where it might be coming from their wives, and why they might not be able to handle it
Yeah.
very well or very smoothly.
So
Um,
if you have a dad come to you in your professional opinion, and if he says, I just really struggle with emotions, I'm not a very emotional person, which of course, can play a role in my marriage, and not only, my wife feeling that I'm committed or involved, but then I also have a hard time understanding her emotions. In your professional opinion, is emotions a learned trait? I mean, can you meet with the dad and go through your curriculum, and he can learn, right, how to be more emotional? Like, it's not something you either have or don't have, correct?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So like I think that we all have emotions, right? And
Hmm.
I think that really what it is understanding what's going on, and what emotions that they're having. And so there's something called a feelings wheel that I whip out
Yeah.
for men, and they seem to really click. So men in general, dads in general, they love concreteness. They don't like the
Yes.
abstract. And so like to see a wheel with first, second, and third emotions,
Okay.
for yeah, primary emotions all the way
Yep.
up to the third row
Yeah.
of emotions, which are very detailed. They're like,
Okay.
wow, like I know what
Mm.
all these words mean, but
Yeah.
like, wow, like, and what I tell them is, you're existing within the first two wheels, and your wife often is existing in the second and third wheel. Like she knows
Oh,
where those are, where she's feeling, and you're kind of like right here, maybe in the second
yes.
wheel a little bit. And so it's
Something
very it
tangible for them.
clicks. Yes, yeah, it very much clicks. It's very
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's
concreteness
so.
really helps with communicating with dads and men in general.
Yeah, and not only to have a professional who's trained in mental health therapy and has the education and the history, but also coming from another male perspective of like really understanding the difference between male and female, I think is such a benefit. So if you're noticing when you're working with a dad that there really could be some help within kind of marriage therapy, do you have a list of recommended therapists that you're then able to continue to obviously work with the dad? The mom might also be getting therapy as well, but then kind of taking it that next step of like, how can we aid and support this marriage to continue to grow as the individuals grow?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So partners were always invited in, and I always make sure the dads that I meet with know that, like, hey, would you like to bring her in and talk about some of these things? And it's not, it's different than couples therapy, but
Hmm.
we can go over a lot of the same things, and it's just kind of inviting your partner to be a part of your
Yeah.
support. That's usually 1 to 2, 3 sessions maybe, and then
Okay.
um, and then we go back to individual. But like, absolutely, if if um, uh, let's see here, what I'm trying to say is, there are people that I know that work very well with
Yeah.
couples. There's a couple of agencies that I recommended. Are your viewers interested in hearing them? Do you want to put them as supplemental?
Yeah, why don't we? Because we're going to also, because that leads into the next question. I was going to say, how do our listeners get in touch with you? And so when this podcast airs, it will also come with a bunch of show notes. And so we'll be able to link any resources that you have, as well as recommendations and all of the links for them to get in touch with you. So, why don't we tell them though, how can they get in touch with you? And if somebody is interested, do you offer like a free consult or meet and greet to see if it's the right fit for them?
Yeah. To answer that question, yeah, absolutely. I love talking with people ahead of time. I love when they call because I don't get calls very much anymore. So I love when they call and they're like, "This is what I'm facing. Can you help?" And
Yes.
I have them tell me a little bit about it, and then I give them my honest opinion. Like,
Yeah.
maybe you need to talk to someone else, or hey, absolutely, I can help with that. I would say 90% of the time, 95%
Yeah.
of the time, I can help.
Yeah.
With most things that people call me for. But yeah, I just kind of love getting to know the people first before
Yeah.
that initial meeting, and being able to draw upon some of that knowledge ahead of time.
Awesome.
So I kind of know where to take it and steer it. Maybe know a goal or two of theirs before we even begin the intake. I love that.
Yeah. That's great. So let our listeners know, what is your website, and is there a contact form on your website to get in touch with you initially? Or is your number on the website?
My number's on the website. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a call
Awesome.
button that you just push, and
Oh,
calls
great.
me. So I do have another gentleman that I'm working with.
Okay.
So both of us are on that site, but it's this discoverymentalhealth.com. You know,
Awesome.
and then it's
Easy
got the
enough.
Launchpad Dads blog on there, and it talks a little bit about my program, and yeah,
Amazing. Well,
yeah.
we will link all of that below. But I want to repeat what Ryan said earlier and what we talked about, that community, we know as professionals and just as parents ourselves, how important community is. And so if you are listening to this and you feel like, hey, this sounds like a really great opportunity to not only meet other dads, but to get support on my journey, reach out either myself or to Ryan to let us know that you would be interested in developing this group for dads. You guys deserve support, and what a great opportunity to not only get that support, but to get that support from a professional who has the history of working with dads. And so, Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. I am going to not only link everything below, like I said, but I'm also going to include those stats that Ryan mentioned, that 1 in 10 dads experience some type of mental health need on their fatherhood journey, and that dads are 50% more at risk if their wives are experiencing a mental health condition. And so I think those are so powerful. Not only do dads deserve support because they're on this journey and it's transformative and a huge transition in their life, but also your family unit deserves for everybody within the family to feel supported. So, Ryan, thank you for the work that you do. It is so important. It is undervalued, but please know here at How to Mom how much we value that. And we're just so excited for the community to get to know you and know that you're available.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
I do this. Sometimes I give people the heads up. I did not give you the heads up today. But if you could leave the dads that are listening today with any piece of advice or words of affirmation or anything that you feel like, wow, that really impacted my fatherhood journey, what would that be?
So one thing is,
Um,
I love to tell dads is that you need to. It's definitely good to do some research, study this. Fatherhood doesn't just come natural to everybody, despite what the movies tell you, despite what society tells you. Um,
mhm.
there are so many moms doing the research, and then the dads didn't read anything. I'll just go along with mom. But like, we got to do our own research because fatherhood can appear different than motherhood a lot of the time,
Yes.
especially with the experience of between birthing a baby and supporting the birth.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Anna Machen is a wonderful researcher for fatherhood. She kind of had a similar thing where she said there's nobody doing research for dads, right?
Yeah.
And so she's got a book out there called The Life of Dad. She's got some great talks and everything. And it one's 15 minutes long and it has so much information and goes over, yeah, so many things about becoming a new father. And I just, you know, but do the research, you know. And,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, yeah. And the other thing is just fatherhood's a wonderful thing. If
Mhm.
something feels off, it's all is not lost.
Yeah.
Reach out to another dad. Reach out to a friend, or make sure you let somebody know because so many dads just go it alone, you know. And like
Absolutely.
we just talked about community, and dads build that community. Man, I don't know why dads struggle with
Yeah.
they struggle so much with like reaching out after. I can't go out and hang out with
Mhm.
my friend. It's like you absolutely need to hang out with your friends at appropriate times,
Yeah.
but you need to hang out with your friends, you know.
So true. Yeah, and I
Um
think too what's different is life changes, not that it doesn't for dads, but more often than not, life changes as soon as that mom conceives baby, right? So, like, her body changes, her hormones change, her emotions change. Like, you're preparing and you're changing 9 to 10 months before that baby is born. For dads, sometimes nothing really is different until baby is here. So, that's a really fast, big
yeah.
life transition. And so many amazing nuggets. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. That does it for today's episode. If you have any questions for Ryan, please don't hesitate to reach out to him or to myself, and I will make sure and get all of that information to Ryan. Everything, all the links that we mentioned will be below on the show notes. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening. All right, you guys, that is it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. If so, please subscribe to our podcast, comment, share, give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen, and we will see you next time.